We're here today with...
Hey, I'm Jacob Dickey from WCIA.
And I'm Adam Shawinski from WCIA.
I'm WCIA3 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty.
And I am WCIA3 meteorologist Seth Bonoff.
Central Illinois' most accurate forecast with meteorologist Jake.
Central Illinois' most accurate forecast with meteorologist Adam Shawinski. Now, Central Illinois' most accurate forecast with meteorologist Kevin Lighty. Now, Central Illinois' most accurate forecast with meteorologist Seth Bonoff.
Okay, I went to the University of Illinois for my undergrad, and I got a major in agricultural sciences and leadership education, and that set me up for a career to be a agriculture instructor and FFA advisor. But the childhood dream came back, and I went to Mississippi State to get my professional meteorology degree and got my master's in that. And born and raised in Gibson City as well, here in Central Illinois, so it's fun to be back home.
So I'm a little bit different. I'm one of the few guys that's not from the viewing area. I'm from Northwest Indiana. Was born in Munster, grew up in Maryville, Indiana, and went down the road, 30 minutes down the road, not even, to Valparaiso University there, class of 2017. Got a Bachelor's of Arts and Science in Meteorology, and yeah, that's what I started out. I've been to multiple spots before here. I was in Peoria, I was in Joplin, not in that specific order. I was in Joplin first, then Peoria, and then I came here. I was an intern in 2016, so I thought it would be cool to come back.
But you do have local connections.
I do have local connections. My grandfather was born here and raised here, and then they moved around Central Illinois, and so did my mother. She was born over closer to Peoria. My grandmother's from Paris, and her side of the family, so I've got a lot of local roots here. I've got a lot of great aunts and uncles and cousins and second cousins and that are all around the area too, that I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I haven't seen you in a while. So this is some of the family tree that's, oh yeah, they know who I am, I know who they are, but we don't connect as often just because we don't see each other as often.
Yeah, you don't give yourself enough credit because he's like, oh, I'm not from Central Illinois, but you have such deep ties.
Oh yeah.
We'll let him be.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm from Vedersburg, Indiana, a small town just an hour east of Champaign in Fountain County, about 2,200 people. Grew up there pretty much my entire life. Wound up going to college, 2 degrees, one from Vincennes University in radio and television broadcasting, and then from Indiana State in geography, climatology, and meteorology.
And I am from Diedrich, Illinois, which of course many of you know, that's right there in Effingham County. I think our population's up to 800 something now. We keep getting bigger and bigger, but definitely one of the smaller towns in the area. But I went to junior college first. I went to Lakeland College, graduated from there in 2021 with a degree in what I think they call environmental science, and then transferred to the University of Illinois. Got the bachelor's degree in what they call atmospheric science, all the same thing, meteorology-based stuff. So that is my educational background.
What got you interested in weather?
Well, I grew up watching the Weather Channel in the 1990s, the golden years of the Weather Channel too. And for me, most kids would watch cartoons and things of that. When I was 2.5-year-old, like most 2.5-year-olds do, they finagle and fiddle with things and whatnot. And I grabbed the remote control to change channels, and I pressed some buttons, and up came the Weather Channel. And my parents said after that moment, I was mesmerized. I was just staring at the TV. And most kids would want cartoons. I would cry if the cartoons were on because I wanted the Weather Channel. So I literally grew up watching the Weather Channel and just loved the weather. I'd always ask my dad if we could go to the edge of town and watch the storms come on in. Long story short, he said no multiple times. Then I asked him, well, did you ask Mom? Because I figured Mom was the root cause of that. And she ended up actually saying yes after we asked her. So we went out to the edge of town, and then my dad and I, we chased together storms and went out and looked all through late elementary, middle school, high school. As it got older, we got a little more advanced, a little more experience and whatnot. And then in college, we chased as well. And so I just grew up loving the weather. I always had an eye to the sky. I hated being stuck in a room with no windows, which is funny because the studio is that way. But I always just loved being out and seeing the sky because it's really fascinating too. And it's amazing because there's so much we don't know about the atmosphere. That just also keeps my interest going, like, man, that's so cool this happened, things like that.
For me, it was kind of a little bit of a difference. I always loved cartoons. I still love cartoons. I still watch cartoons.
I mean, I do too.
Yeah, as a grown adult. But I was the one that, when I was younger, a lot of experiences with the storms coming in. You always get those 1 or 2 storms that something happens in conjunction with a storm. So, that was always kind of in my background. When I got older, I think around 4th grade, 3rd grade, around that time period, I was kind of a little bit scared of storms, as most kids are. And then you get those storms to kind of happen, and you have little events here and there, and you're somewhat scared of the storm. Then by 5th grade, I had a really big experience. I'd say almost a traumatic experience, and it's mostly my fault, which I could attest to. I mean, that's how it, for this time around, it's kind of how it was. But in 5th grade, we had a tornado warning, and we were still going home for school that day, and so I was so scared. I was on the bus driver didn't exactly know what's going on. We have a tornado warning, and so I just remember getting off the bus early. I said, I'll walk here, I'll run to the house. My house is right there. So I got off my stop early, and I just remember running from the bus stop to the house, just running like crazy to get in the basement. And we had a tornado warning. Nothing happened. There was no tornado. At least I don't think there was, but I don't think there was any reports or anything. But it was one of those that at that moment I was very anxious and afraid of weather, to the point where I was going to the library looking at books of tornadoes, still scared, like, oh, it's a scary picture of a tornado. Tornadoes are scary. And then to a point where I was like, oh, statistically, hey, look at that. That's how that happens. Oh, so it went from being really a big fear to almost becoming a meteorologist that I used to call myself an amateur meteorologist, or a baby med, or whatever you want to call it, baby meteorologist. And so I remember one time I checked out a book from the library. We were outside doing a free day for one of our periods, and we went outside and I was like, that's a cumulonimbus cloud, that's a this cloud. My parents bought me some books to kind of calm me down a little bit, and I would learn. And so it came more of an interest than a fear, a little bit of both, I guess, a fear mixed with an interest. And then after that, it kind of dissipated a little bit. I mean, I just remember there's a bunch of stories I could tell that have weather involved, of events and times where I was like, count it. I'm pretty good at what I do when I talk about weather, so I wasn't a meteorologist yet. But I will say that after that, I kind of wanted to be a teacher for a while. Then I found out teachers, they don't make as much of money, and they need to make more money. But I'll always advocate for teachers making more money, because I come from a background of a lot of educators too. So I remember in school, my mom was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? And so I was looking at college, and I was like, okay, teaching, maybe, I don't know. I want to do more history, but they're like, oh, you should be a science teacher. Oh, you should be this kind of teacher. You should be this kind of teacher. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I thought one day we had severe weather rolling through, the potential for severe weather. We had a storm rolling through for sure. Something. I just remember watching the radar. Maybe it wasn't a storm, but I remember watching the radar, looking at the NWS website, because at that point I knew my zip code, because that was the zip code I needed to get to the exact website to go to the exact spot for our forecast for the day. I was like a pro at the National Weather Service. I knew what Storm Prediction Center, slight risk meant at that point. I was all into it, and I'm like way ahead of the game. I just remember sitting there while the storm was coming through. I was like, you know what? I could get paid to just look at radar, just watch this all day, which we still kind of do. We get paid to just kind of babysit the radar here and there. Obviously, we have other tasks to do, but I just remember getting there, sitting and watching it, and just remember thinking about that. So then I also liked watching the weather guy in the morning over at Channel 5, Andy Avalos on Channel 5 in Chicago, and then I also liked watching Tom Skilling and Brant Miller. So I liked a lot of the guys there in Chicago, because Chicago is a pretty big weather market. There's a whole lake there. It's a whole thing. And after time, I was like, maybe I could go on TV. I like TV, love TV. I watched a lot of TV when I was growing up, both cartoons and then as I got older, sitcoms and stuff like that. Like TV, loved Bill Nye. Hey, he teaches people about weather. He talks about science. And so, when he does those science segments about weather, I could do kind of something like that and give the forecast every day. And, for a while, people used to joke, oh, you're going to be that guy who's going to tell all the little kiddies to go into the storm shelter when there's severe weather. And I kind of ended up being that way. And I kind of take pride in that a little bit, because it's like, I kind of became the person that I would have felt safe with, I guess, as a younger age, being afraid of weather. So that's how I became a meteorologist. Went to Valpo because they were super excited to have weather. I remember Dr. Gobert saying, yeah, we got weather day one. You get to learn about weather. It's our first, one of our first courses there for freshmen. And so I just went to VU and enjoyed it. So.
I mean, there was no one significant event. I know a lot of people say, oh, it was this one thing that got them into it. I've just always enjoyed weather since I was a little kid. My parents said, you always were so intrigued by watching storms outside the window. You wanted to know more. And that's essentially kind of what led me down the path is as I was watching storms, I was scared of them. I guess. I don't remember crying about storms, but I guess I did. But at the same time, I was so intrigued by the weather itself that I couldn't tear myself away from the window, so I just kept watching. So that led me down the path of wanting to learn why there's lightning and thunder, and what's this loud stuff, and what's this stuff falling from the sky. So I wanted to learn more about it, and just continued the path down. And I was growing up in the age of the internet boom and whatnot, so I did a lot of just self kind of education on a lot of weather things. There's a lot of stuff that you could find in the late 90s in weather and whatnot. So I did a lot of that, and again, no one big thing. I just always have loved weather. I've been able to carry it through my entire life. It's the only job. I've only had a broadcasting job my entire life. It's either been in radio or television, and there's not many people that can say that that's the only job they ever had. They had to work usually some newspaper job, a paper route or something. I've never had to, or work at a restaurant or fast food. I've never had to do that. So I find myself fortunate that I had something that I found that I really like to do, and I've been able to do it now for a very long time. I won't say how many years because that'll age me.
Right. Pretty much the same answer as Kevin, and I think me and Adam's stories kind of overlap pretty good too, where it was like a fear first that then turned into a passion. There really wasn't a specific event, but I do remember when I was like 6 or some years old, there was a neighbor's house about 2 miles up the road that got hit by, it was an EF0 tornado, wasn't a very strong one, but it hit their house directly, and that terrified me because at the age of 6, being able to see something come from the sky and do what it did to their house, objectively terrifying. So then that influenced me to try to know when scary stuff was going to happen, so that way I knew when to run and hide and fear and all that. But of course, over time, you get a little bit older. Stuff like that doesn't scare you quite as much because you start to learn more about it because you want to try to find out more about it. I always found myself watching the Weather Channel, all kinds of local TV stations too with their weather. But it was kind of fear-driven at first, turned into a passion. Everybody knew me at my high school as the kid that wanted to be the weather guy because when you have a graduating class of 30, everybody knows what everyone wants to do. And of course, that was kind of my shtick there for a while. But for the longest time, there wasn't really too many resources directly. High schools don't teach a whole lot of meteorology, at least not, where we're from. Lakeland didn't offer a whole lot of weather classes outside of a few general weather and climate classes, so it wasn't until university when I finally was able to figure out that stuff. So it was kind of like a fire hose information in those 2 years, but it was pretty good stuff. It touched up on everything that I was excited about when I was a kid, and of course that fear is gone now. But another thing that kind of influenced it was my dad is big into weather too. He would watch all kinds of Weather Channel and stuff like that. His dad was a big weather guy. They're from an ag community, of course, so they pay pretty close attention to that stuff for that reason. But I would say mainly it was a fear-driven thing that turned into craving to know more about it. Craving to know more about it led to where I am here today.
I think my favorite part of being a weatherman is not even the weather, it's being connected to the community and being able to do things in the community, whether we're bringing kidcasters, kids who are excited about science, or we are involved in a school, whether we're doing a talk to a group, a business group, a chamber group, something like that. Just being connected to the community to me is maybe my favorite thing about it, but I do love a good severe weather day. I mean, as a meteorologist, you think of a firefighter. We're not rooting for tornadoes here, but neither is the firefighter rooting for fires. No. But when there is a fire, that firefighter has been trained what to do, knows how to perform, things like that. Severe weather days is when we're supposed to perform at our highest expectation, and so there's a lot of downtime. We've been dry this fall and quiet, but when severe weather, winter weather, hazardous weather, impactful weather affects people, I think for me that also is the second thing where I know people are coming to us for the forecast as well.
I always go, when it comes to severe weather days, and I do enjoy them to a certain degree. I mean, the beginning of the day, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a long day. But then when we're in the action, it's like fun, I shouldn't say fun, but it keeps things flowing. Fun isn't the right word.
Yeah, but it's also a long day for you because you get up at 2 a.m.?
2 a.m.
We're not up till like 8, 9 in the morning those days.
But it's one of those where once you're in it, the adrenaline pumps and you start going and you start doing these decisions and start helping people out. And I think one of my favorite things was I remember we had a severe weather event. It was the derecho last summer, not this past summer, but the summer before. And I remember a gentleman came in and he said, thanks to you, we were watching at lunchtime there on the news show, thanks to you and Kevin, you saved my horses. We got all the horses in the barn and stuff like that. I think is what I like is when people kind of respond to us talking about the weather in that kind of way. For me also too, I really enjoy just kind of telling people what the weather is going to be like and breaking down something that's very complicated science-wise and just breaking it down to very, 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 very simple terms. Like, oh, we're talking about high pressure for today and barometric pressures at this and that, and I go, it's just going to be nice today. You just boil it down to one little egg and then go from there. So,
I get paid to talk for a living, and I get paid to talk about the weather for a living. And if there's one thing that everybody can be on the same page, at least as a topic, it's the weather, because the weather affects everybody. So I get to do that every day, and they pay me to do it. So I mean, from a very simplistic standpoint, that's what I love. I mean, I get to do what I love. I don't have to. I know it's cliche, it's dumb, it sounds a canned response, but like it's not a job. Like yeah, okay, you come in, you got to do some work, but like I enjoy that I get to do this. So it's not something that I come in and dread. And there's a lot of people in a lot of professions that dread their job every day. And I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to worry about that. I work with a great team, we've got a great station, and so it's a blessing to me that I still, after all of these years, continue to be able to do exactly what I've wanted to do since I was a kid. And I get to help people, especially when it comes to severe weather. And so that's when the rewarding stuff comes through. When I tell you it's 80 and sunny, everybody knows that. I'm not dumb to think that people don't use weather apps and instantly know what it's going to be. But I also know that when stuff's hitting the fan, that we're there and we're actually making a difference in telling people when there is severe weather and potentially saving lives in doing so when things are bad. So that's what I enjoy the most.
Yep, pretty much the same thing. I mean, there's that phrase, you work and do what you love, you'll never actually work a day in your life. We do this because it is our passion. It's easy to talk about the stuff that gets you excited and all that stuff. But I think personally what gives me a little extra motivation, and one thing that makes me enjoy the job a little more, is that I am in the area that we cover. So I know there's people at home watching. That always gives me a little extra incentive because, no matter where this job takes me, it can be halfway across the country and, one of the biggest markets in the world. That's cool. That's obviously the ultimate goal. But there's something to be said about being here at home or close to home, where people are watching you, people who know you're watching you, mom and dad, all that stuff. It is neat because you know that you have some people in your corner. It gives you some extra motivation. Not that I wouldn't otherwise do this, but it makes you, pay a little more attention, do a better job, because there are a number of eyes watching, but also some very important eyes. But yes, at the end of the day, this is something that we love. We all kind of knew we were going to do this from a very early age, so that's kind of helped us up to that point. And kind of like Kevin said, you just kind of get to talk for a while. All the information. Everybody who works in this field knows the info, but what I think is unique about the broadcast side of things, being on television, is you get to be the one that simplifies it in your own specific way. There is no one way to deliver the weather. Everybody does it in kind of their own way. There's different jobs where things are pretty, copy paste. Not that you can't do things in other jobs your own way, but we all have our own distinct style that is completely different from anyone else's anywhere else in the country that does this job.
So yeah, I think the toughest thing that we kind of go through, I think, is there's a lot sometimes that goes into a forecast, and deadlines can be a bit of a pain too as well. Those can be kind of tight on some things. Some things are not too bad. I guess trying to make the weather seem interesting on days that it's not interesting, and it's not seeming as scary when it seems kind of scary too.
And I think when you talk about the deadlines and stuff, this is a job where there's a lot of hurry up and wait.
Yes.
It's like, okay, we got to do a lot, and then we sit and wait.
Yes.
And then our forecast is coming up. Okay, get graphics right, sit and wait. And in between shows, we kind of do some sitting and waiting. But we fill that with other things. We're really big on digital here at our station, and utilizing that as a resource. And a lot of times we give ourselves extra projects. I've got a couple segments. Adam does some stuff with pets in the area for adoption. So we keep busy.
I would say also another one would be just the times of things, because I don't know about you, but getting up at 2:30 in the morning, trying to get here and do a morning show, it's 5 a.m.'s usually everybody's like, oh, that's so early in the morning. I'm like, 5 a.m. I'm already at work, and I've been at work for a while, so.
Yeah, and we try and get you out.
Yeah.
Quiet
Yeah,
days.
yeah. And it's but I think even in general, just the time is not,
Yeah.
it's not a 9 to 5 job, basically.
No, it's not.
Some days it's more
Weather's
than
a
12
24-hour
hours.
job.
Yeah.
The weather doesn't stop like the bank does.
Weather and news don't stop, and unfortunately we're tied to both.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, I don't know if I'd call this an obstacle, but I think sometimes, I think earlier on in my career, we get messages from people all the time, and sometimes they're a little bit mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be more personally affected by those, but now I don't have any feelings left to hurt. So bring it on. But when you get those messages that are more positive, that's great. But
That
sometimes
is great.
sometimes those negative ones can slip in, and if you're not careful and you're not, your guard's not up, sometimes they can
get
kind of
you.
rib you a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's usually a lot of people who say positive messages. And sometimes I just laugh at the messages we get too. Some of them people are ridiculous at some of the things they think they have the right to say, and I guess they have a right to say it, but there's some cranky people out there.
Just be nice. That's all I gotta say.
That's right.
Just
Be nice.
Just
to
be
people.
nice.
Be nice to people.
Just be
We're
nice.
nice people here, aren't we?
We try, but yeah.
We try.
Toughest obstacle that I face in the job. Weeks like this when there's no weather and I have to talk for 3 minutes in 12 hits in an hour. No, I mean that's that can be a thing. We have to try to keep things relevant to people, even when there's not active weather. That's a very small thing that can be an obstacle, because listen, it'll get boring, and you don't want to see sunny in 80, sunny in 75, sunny in 78. So we have to try to come up with ways to keep things compelling and whatnot. I think just another don't say an obstacle. I really don't have too many. Like, it's really not that much, but we often we fight over who's going to go in the storm tracker, who's going to get to go chase, who's going to be in studio, who's going to, because like, we all kind of, have that itch and passion for it and like to do those kind of things. So, that's all. And just, as a weather team, making sure that, scheduling with our 4-person team, there's a lot of newscasts, there's a lot of things going on, and just trying to fulfill all the requests that we get from people and from outside organizations and talks and appearances that we got to do, and kind of fit all of that in to the schedule and whatnot. But I mean, like largely though, I mean, these are first world problems. I mean, this stuff's not that bad. Here's what I say to people all the time in television. We do television. We don't do brain surgery or heart surgery. No one's gonna die by what what we do. Like, so we do TV. Okay. Yes, we want to take our job seriously. Yes, we want to do the best that we can. But if there's a mistake, or if something happens, or if there is an obstacle, we can overcome it. It's not the end of the world, and we'll get through it. So it's kind of what I always try to preach to, especially the younger ones in the business that quickly may get frustrated about something. It's okay. We're doing TV weather. We're doing broadcasting here. We're doing our best, and at the end of the day, we're all going home. So that's what's good.
Yeah, I would say probably one of the toughest obstacles is also one of the things that I enjoy about the job too. It's good and bad. It's kind of like a two-sided coin. Just the uniqueness of the scheduling. There's 4 of us. There are X number of hours in a day when it comes to broadcasting. So if one of us can't be here or has vacation or something like that, someone's got to fill that in. It's not like, any other kind of job, other places where you have someone that can kind of easily slide in the shift. There are newscasts that go on, the same hours every single day. Somebody needs to be there for those. So just from a standpoint of, sometimes your life adjusts to your schedule. That's kind of a tough obstacle. But again, that's kind of a very, first world problem. If the toughest thing is just kind of working your day-to-day schedule, you're living a pretty good life. But where we are here in Central Illinois, we do get busy in severe weather season. It's not as bad as it is in other places, but we have had stretches before where there are probably 3 days in a row or 4 out of 6 days where you're kind of actively watching for severe weather, and weather doesn't care what time of day it is. It can happen at 2 in the morning. It can happen at 7 in the morning in February, as we've seen before. And that's kind of tough too, because sometimes you get fatigued. You can't really plan stuff throughout the week if you know that you have to kind of be here for work. So I'd say that's probably just the toughest obstacle, is getting through those tough weeks, because you know the forecast. You can see at the end of the week things are going to be nice and calm, and you can go back to kind of just taking things easy. But when there's about 3 days in a row where there's some active severe weather, and you're going to be pulling some late nights, it's we kind of live for that thrill. We enjoy covering the weather. We don't obviously root for severe weather days, but we're kind of ready to do that. But when it happens 3 days in a row, then all of a sudden you kind of start to tire down. You're like, man, I just wish we could go to some nice quiet weather for a little bit, so that way people don't have to worry so much, and that we can kind of just relax a little bit. As much fun as it is for us to kind of cover this stuff, forecast it, we're human beings, and we need a break from the things that we love sometimes too.
So for forecasting purposes, when there's severe weather, I like to use the analogy of a forest for that. And think of our 7-day forecast. There's times when we've been, 6-7 days out, like, hey, there's probably some severe weather coming 6-7 days from now. And the way to think about that is, if you're driving up to a forest, when you can see the forest at the distance, there's trees there. You don't really know many of the details of that. That's kind of that 6-7 day window. As you get a little closer, and then you're able to see more of those are more deciduous trees, they're coniferous trees, and they're about this tall, but some very small details start to emerge. We're kind of in that 4 to 5 day window. We get even closer, now we're able to start seeing the leaves on the trees, and some of the branches, and there's maybe some big knots in the side of it, things like that. We're getting those
squirrels
closer
running
details.
by back and forth.
That's right, yeah. We're in that 2 to 3 day window now, and then we're looking up at the leaves, but we're also looking at the veins of the leaves, and we're looking at all those spots. That's that 1 day window. The farther away we are, big picture, we know there's a forest, but we're that 1 day out, so we're able to get more of those specifics. We're talking more specific timing. We're talking more how much energy is in the atmosphere, how much is the wind shear, where's the system at, and I think that's the case. And then once severe weather gets here, it's no longer forecasting, it's more nowcasting. There's a storm here, well, in an hour in this direction, it's moving for this way, so we're giving warnings to people even ahead of official warnings from the National Weather Service, those heads up saying, hey, this storm is in Vandalia and it's moving northeast. It's coming towards Effingham. It'll be there in 45 minutes. There may not be a warning yet for that storm at Effingham, but that lead time that we give downstream, if the storm keeps together and on a day like today, there's not much that's going to stop it. Going to keep on going. We can kind of do that, and so things do change a lot. And typically, when that severe weather is happening as well, news plays a big role.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We try to rally the troops there to so to say over in news and say, hey, can you get a call on this? Can you get a beat on this? What's happening there? We had a big storm go through Mattoon or Charleston or wherever. Not just using an example. Nothing has happened, obviously, but using them as an example, we went through Mattoon and Charleston. Hey, do they still have power? What's going on? Can you get in contact with the police department, the fire department, or anything that can kind of give us some information? We have reporters that'll go and say, hey, making phone calls, because they're really good at doing that. They do that every single day. So them making a phone call for us is not a big deal, or it's it just kind of works in tandem with us pretty well. Plus we have to also have people checking Facebook, checking social media. I know that there's times where there's all of us in here, not all of us, but 3 out of the 4. One of us is out on the road already.
You don't want to do it?
Oh no, usually you are though. I'm just saying
you don't want to do it.
Not when it's been 10 o'clock in the
evening.
evening.
A high risk day. And that's
another
story for another.
That's another story. But I will tell you this though, that when we have that kind of weather though, when there's 3 of us in here, Seth, Kevin, myself, one of us is doing social media, one of us is updating graphics, one of us is on air, kind of telling people what's going on. And sometimes Kevin needs a break, so tag in Adam, tag in Seth, and then that way he can get a drink of water, he can go look at some more stuff, and vice versa. We kind of just work in tandem. Now I will say a lot of times that I've done it's in the afternoon, so Kevin usually takes the lead, or we've had times where it's severe weather during my shift, I'm the lead, Jacob supports, and then we kind of switch depending on what's going on. So there's a lot of fluidity too that we have to kind of just be aware of, and we pretty much are. We've got a plan usually in action, what we're going to do for that day, depending on the situation.
And some people say too, why are you out driving in the storm or in the snowstorm, things like that. So the visuals that we get from that, if we're able to put ourselves out there and say, look, here's the tornado, it's actually there. That's a way different message than here's radar, the tornado's approximately here, radar's a bucket of spilt paint on a map, blah, blah, blah. People don't really pay attention to that, but the moment we show that on air, they know it's a different message.
Right.
And we've had a lot of success with that for severe weather, for tornadoes, and even if we can't get the tornado, the damage afterwards tells the story much better. There's been multiple events in my 3.5, almost 4 years of being here where, hey, I saw the tornado on TV, or I saw the damage you put on TV, and I realized it was a different story. And I've talked to people who they've said they never sheltered, but they saw it, and the tornado hit their house, and because they heard our reports, they saw us in the field with Storm Tracker, or winter weather. I knew the roads were bad. I saw you guys were out there and you were reporting what was going on, so I knew to either not go that way or to delay my trip or to change my plans accordingly because of that.
I mean, if we're out there in the winter weather, usually there gets to a point where it's like, we cannot travel on this road. If every once in a while it happens, like we can't travel on this road either. Definitely you can. If we can't do it, you definitely can't do it. I always tell people all the time, when the weather person, the meteorologist, is worried about something, you should be worried. If they're not worried about something, you shouldn't be worried.
And we haven't had a big snowstorm in a while, but I don't know about you.
I don't know. I can't find wood. Knock on wood.
Yeah, but sometimes the winter weather events are a much slower evolution.
It's a long day.
It's a long duration. The severe weather it's the hurry up and wait. You get hours and hours, and then you've got a couple of hours of showtime, and then news takes over with the damage of the aftermath.
Yeah, we kind of do. And the hurry up and wait is perfect for severe weather. When it comes to winter weather, it's just a kind of a long slog.
Yeah,
not as intense.
Still
Still snowing. Now we've got 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches here, and then an hour later we're up to 5. And then when you get those big events for severe weather, it's bam, 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 and we're winding things down. And it's like, well, it's 40
so we get
minutes.
out early. We tend to get out early in those two. I'd like to get out early. Severe weather, it's expected at 4 o'clock. I need to be out there at 10 a.m. and just go to my favorite restaurants.
Yeah. And he does. There's times where he's literally had a plate and he shows us on camera and we're like, yep, that's...
Yep. Dry, cool air is here. This front coming is front number 1 ahead. There's another one behind it, but it just brings maybe a slim chance for a shower. Helps to reinforce that cooler, drier air for the weekend. I think you're going to love the weekend coming up. It is all sunshine all the way through. Not much weather-wise happening here. Stray shower possible tomorrow. Maybe one Sunday with that front, but no meaningful beneficial rain. But that clear sky, that's good news for looking to the sky for the stars, satellites.
It's nice.
It's nice weather, yeah. We enjoy it. Nice to have some fall weather here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jacob.
And the one thing about weather in general is it's all very fluid. It's a fluid kind of science. It's not perfect, and a variable or two off here or there makes all the outcome and difference in a severe weather setup. And so trying to determine all of those and come up with a forecast. And then the biggest thing is then communicating it to the public, and trying to either get them to believe, hey, there is going to be severe weather, because there can be complacency, there can be, false alarm syndrome, there can be, people that don't pay attention, people are busy, they've got their lives, and I get it, but trying to get the message out to people and have them realizing this could be a serious situation. From a forecasting standpoint, I think we do a pretty good job. We've come a long way. The Doppler radar is incredible. What we've developed here with our team and going out and chasing the storms and providing live real-time pictures and video in conjunction with our broadcast just helps aid in our storytelling of what's going on. And so from that standpoint, it's great. But I think it's sometimes it's the messaging that can be difficult to try to get through to people, but listen, we've got a lot of ways that people can get warnings. We've made it very simple, whether it's our app, our weather call, our daily newscasts, our website that's updated. I mean, all kinds of things, and the articles that we write and blog and all that. So there's a lot of ways to get it, and we just continue to try to serve it up, because there's a lot of different audiences. There's an audience that wants everything on their phone. There's an audience that still is very old school and everything on TV or a landline phone or whatever. So it's just trying to deliver to all of those different audiences that severe weather message, and then making it clear and relevant and impactful to them, so that they know, when a big deal is a big deal for a severe weather day. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me.
Yep, with severe weather, it's kind of weird because we do know what we're doing. It seems like it's hard to predict, but we've taken the classes, we've read the books, we've done all the math, the endless physics. So we know the stuff that goes into the severe weather predicting. But what I think kind of makes it come off as difficult is when you say it's going to be partly cloudy outside and ends up being mostly sunny. That's the same kind of margin of missing the forecast as with severe weather, but people don't care when it's a slightly different cloud cover forecast. People don't care when you miss the high by 2 degrees. People care a lot when you call for 2 inches of snow and there's 8. People care a lot when you say it is a low risk for severe weather and something happens directly to them. So I think there's an elevated level of significance when you predict severe weather, because it affects people more greatly. So we do know what we're doing, but there's an elevated level of we need to make sure we've got the details just about perfect, because if something is off by 50 miles, it's 2 counties over, and all of a sudden people who thought they were getting something aren't, and vice versa. And I think also part of this particular station in this particular area in the world is that we cover a ton of counties. We cover a very big chunk of central Illinois. So when we predict severe weather, it could only impact 3 or 4 counties to a very high degree, but then there's 25 other counties where nothing happens. So there could be those people that think, they missed the forecast, nothing happened here, where in reality, we got it right. We never said it was going to happen in this, or this place. We just cover such a large area. So that's why what Kevin said, the messaging is very important, because you can say something and people can take it the completely wrong way. So it's our job to kind of communicate that clearly. And that's why severe weather is so tough, because it impacts people greatly. So you got to make sure you're pretty on the money with your forecasts. And again, there could be high impact stuff to a very small chunk of the area. You got to be able to message that. If it's going to be kind of moderate impact across the whole area, you also have to message that. So it's not necessarily that it's tougher to get the message across sometimes. And I think that's definitely where where the idea of severe weather being tough to predict, that's definitely where that roots from.
I'll add one thing to that, and as an obstacle to severe weather, it's when we have to cut in, and like you were saying, when there's 3 counties that are maybe affected and the other 25 are not, is balancing the programming. Yes, how do we make our money? We make them through commercials, and we blow those out, cover those up. Guess what? We don't make the money on it. Fortunately, here at this station, there's not a mandate. There's not a, you're losing us money, don't you ever cover up the commercials. We kind of have carte blanche on cutting in when we need to do. But we're trying to also, it's not just about the money, it's the viewers at home, and trying to get across to them that severe weather is happening. It's bad. Somebody's house, life could be in danger. And it's a struggle sometimes to make everybody happy. You just can't do it. But what I think more and more people need to learn is that in this day and age, it's 2024, it's about to be 2025. All of these shows are on streaming websites and apps and things, and everybody, there are other ways to get your programming. And again, we wouldn't be cutting on unless somebody's life property is in immediate danger. We don't go on just to go on. We have specific things that we abide by and rules, but if there's a tornado warning, we're on the air. And it's pretty simple as that.
So we're looking outside of Effingham right now. Pretty beautiful afternoon, nice blue skies, pretty sunny conditions out there. It's actually been a pretty nice go of things here the last several days. Not too much going on. You can see on your satellite radar picture here, really not too much of anything here all across the area. It's been a pretty nice go of things the last several days. Feeling like fall too. Temperatures into the upper 70s, so maybe just a little warm for fall, but 78 in Champaign, 79 in Decatur, a nice cool 76 down there in Effingham. So we're feeling pretty good. A little bit of a breeze out there to maybe make that fall feel a little more active there, 5 to 10 miles an hour out of the south. All right, let's go into your forecast tonight. Things getting nice and chilly, dropping all the way down to 49 degrees, and that'll set up for a pretty calm day into tomorrow as well.
There were 2 semis and a vehicle hauler trailer. Take a look at these pictures posted on.
So what goes on behind the scenes that doesn't get seen on live TV?
You want to answer
No
that?
comment.
No comment.
No, it's fun. It's a really great place to work and really fun here. I will say this: I've had people tell me, "Oh, you just show up, jump on TV, and get to go home." If our shift is about 8 hours, on TV we might be on for 10, maybe 15 minutes of that whole 8-hour shift. But we have to do our own forecast. We have to do all of our digital graphics and updating on the website. We have to do updates on our weather ticker and some of the other things we do that way. We are working on extra projects. We are, editing videos and stories, things of that. Sometimes we'll have school visits, talks, different events we go to.
There's always something going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That's, part of what we do for our station, to help out. But I will say, some of, we kind of build the forecast off a little bit what we had last night, so it's continuously changing forecast, and we don't start from scratch every single time necessarily, unless we really have something change, like there's a massive change in forecast. But rarely do we have to scrap like yesterday's and completely start anew. But usually it's just adjusting what we have and double checking and making sure that we're not, are we still right? Are we still on the right path? We're on the right path on our forecast anyway. So double checking those numbers. And again, those numbers, everyone thinks we just roll up and do it. I've had viewers that say, "Oh, you get in at 5 a.m., right?" I'm like, no, I am not up. I do not just roll out of bed at 5 a.m. and get here. Because I have to commute too. But it's even outside of the commute. it takes a minute to get everything situated and ready.
However, what happens during the commercial breaks will remain a trade secret.
It's nothing bad, I promise you.
Is investigating the cause of the accident. It happened near Maple Street and Madison Street Saturday night. WCIA.
So there's a lot that goes behind the scenes. In fact, 95% of our job is what people would consider behind the scenes. We're only on screen for at most probably in the evenings 8 to 10 minutes on a given night, so people kind of only see that part of us, but we're doing a lot of work in the background. We're doing all that stuff. Obviously it takes, sometimes depending on the day, it takes a couple hours to get the forecast done, so we do that kind of background stuff. But also we work with our friends here too. This is when we get to kind of catch up with people who work, any kind of other office job. They get to, chit chat with their friends throughout the day, and that's kind of what we do too. We kind of build the friendships here in the background. We do a lot of other stuff too. We do our Kidcaster program where we kind of, give the younger people in the area, kind of give them a chance to learn things too. We give a lot of tours around here. There's a lot of people who are fascinated who come in here and just kind of want to see what we do. We do a whole lot of that. But we also have, our own office stuff. We have our own celebrations sometimes. But also from the weather perspective, one thing that people don't see behind the scenes as much is we also help a lot of the other departments in our station too. When sports needs to stream something, we kind of share the same streaming software. We need to make sure things look good for them and make sure things are prepared. When we find out something newsworthy, we have to feed that into our news team as well. And a lot of the time, stuff like that kind of overlaps. When there's severe weather going on, news is working their butt off to get us stuff, and vice versa. We're trying to cover everything. But I think the biggest thing that people probably don't know behind the scenes is when there is any kind of potential for some sort of severe weather, even if nothing's going on, someone needs to be here for that, because things can happen in as little as 10 or 15 minutes. So it might be 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes. Somebody's going to be here to kind of monitor stuff. So even though, you're asleep at night thinking until someone's on TV, nobody's here, sometimes there's people in this building 24 hours a day, depending on the situation that warrants it. So we're kind of here more often than you think, but there's also a lot of fun stuff that goes on in the background that's not just work.
Weather's like here all the time. Like, we're one of the few departments that's actually here all the time. And poor Seth, I swear, he's got the worst luck. He's like, it seems like it's always severe weather on a weekend.
Things always happen on Saturdays.
On Saturday, he's always having to stay in what we like to call babysit the storms, and we have to babysit them just in case, make sure they're not doing anything bad, and you have to be here because if they decide to get a little out of character and misbehave, then yeah, we got to go on the air, or we got to do a cut in, or we got to go on a streaming. So a lot of people don't see the many extra hours that are put in because again, yeah, we're only on the air for 8 minutes, 10 minutes a day, whatever. But there's so many other things we have to update and do and deliver. But aside from that, the other thing is a lot of people, I think, also look at us in a weird, different light that makes us seem different than them, and we're not. Like, we're really not. We put our pants on the same way that you do, one leg at a time. We shop at the same grocery stores. We go do the same things you do. We like to have fun as well. During the commercial breaks, we're always hooting and hollering and laughing and telling jokes, and we've got games that we'll play, when there's
footballs in here,
football, we throw around, like we have fun with it too, because, it doesn't have to be serious all the time. And like, perfect examples when a week like we've had recently, it's sunny and 75 every day. So, we can let loose, loosen the tie up a little bit, when weeks like this, because we know there's going to be a time when, there's going to be that serious weather and you got to be on your game. So it's the balance. And I think that's very important to have the balance of, being serious, but also, still having fun, making the job fun, enjoyable, and being able to interact with your colleagues and whatnot. So we get a lot of that behind the scenes. A lot of people don't see at home. We're actually friends with a lot of people, and even the people that are behind the scenes that do production and whatnot. Like they literally make us on TV if it wasn't for them. So like it's a big shout out to them as well, and it's good to have that good relationship with them because they can make you look like really an idiot on TV. If we don't do it enough on our own. So they have a lot of power back there.
You got these cables all wrapped up. We're having some mic issues here.
You're doing a good job multitasking there for a minute.
I was like talking to you. So that mic, this is actually our second mic. We've got some audio issues, so hold on here. And you get to watch me. We have to take this mic.
This is the process.
That worked.
Gotta switch it out sometimes.
Back there. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna clip this on the tie for Michael because he prefers it on the tie. It's on the lapel. I'm doing that for him. Okay.
Are you ready?
Are we good? Can you hear me? Are we good? Can you hear me? Yeah, let's go back over here. Here we go. Microphone is working. Test 1, 2, 3.
Let me tell you, it's a great day outside. In fact, let's just show you how nice it is. In the JT's Tree and Crane Weather Garden, we can actually give you a forecast while we're out in the weather that we're telling you about. Hot dog, Kevin? Join the WCIA3 weather team as we bring you your local weather live in the Weather Garden weekdays on WCIA3. 7, as I mentioned, featuring some more Effingham County locations like Teutopolis now at 77 degrees.
Go ahead, Seth. Our town Effingham.
Yep, our town Effingham was very special. The first time I started working here, I just kind of learned about the our town stuff too. I'm like, man, that'd be really cool to have it back down in Effingham someday because that's kind of my neck of the woods kind of thing. Kevin's super famous around here. Jacob's obviously super famous, but in Effingham, I'm kind of the guy in the middle there for a little bit. No, that was really fun because lots of people came out and talked to me. It was fun just to be able to do the job that I enjoy and love in the place where it kind of all started. So that was kind of a nice little full circle moment. But no, that was a great time because people kind of got to know the people that I work with every day to the level that I know them, because the few minutes you see us on TV, you get to know us pretty good over time, but when you kind of have those conversations, find out what we're interested in, it's pretty neat. So it's kind of cool seeing, two worlds clash, because for the most part, I have a work life here, I have a family life back home, so to see those kind of overlap a little bit was definitely fun. But it's also just great to see the town of Effingham, very edge of the viewing area. You go one county south, all of a sudden you're getting, different TV markets. The fact that Effingham is involved in things in central Illinois to where we cover them, it's definitely good to see that. Effingham's kind of a special little spot in the area because I feel like there's always stuff going on. They're very passionate about the things that they do. So it was very neat to be able to see some of the local businesses be covered. Obviously, the Effingham Gym there, good to see it get its recognition. But also just to see when Brandon was doing the skateboard over there, the guy that he was skateboarding with, Dino Tolder, he was my junior high basketball coach. So it's just super cool to see the overlap there and to see things like that happen, and just to get the people that I know are good people, how their names get out there a little bit. That was definitely a pretty cool day.
Listen, Seth's from there. Seth started there. But believe it or not, I started there too. What people may not realize, you have to run it back. Very first time I was ever on the air on WCIA was at Our Town, Effingham, 7 years ago.
Very good.
So it was a Friday. I didn't start on the air until Monday, but they had me come down 7 years ago when Our Town Effingham was there, right before I started the job. And they're like, hey, come check it out. This is the thing we do. It's our town. And so at the very end of the 6 o'clock show, I joined Jennifer Roscoe and Aaron Bennett and Brett Behrens, and I think somebody else was there too. But they were like, hey, it's our new weather guy. So I started first thing on the air 7 years ago was actually at the Our Town Effingham event. So when I came back 7 years later, my memory is not the best, especially and somebody came up to me and goes, hey, do you remember? And I was like, wait, that was here? And it was, and there's a video. There's a video of me from 7 years ago, a much younger, skinnier Kevin from 7 years ago, and less gray hair Kevin. But it all started in Our Town Effingham 7 years ago. So yes, it was kind of a full circle moment for me as well, coming back and doing it. All right, back out here at Our Town Effingham. How about the view from up above as we continue to get things rocking and rolling? I'm going to tell you, it just smells amazing. You walk up downtown here, you just already start to smell some barbecue. And you know me, I'm going to find some barbecue. And
all right, looks like we're going to send things on over to Jennifer Roscoe with more at Our Town Effingham.
Now, is there a certain type of pressure that you face being from Effingham County and being the meteorologist up here?
Yeah, definitely. There are some extra added pressures just because no matter who you know or no matter how close you are with people, they always kind of, make jabs at weather people in general. And I'm not special. I'm not 1,000 times better than the next weather guy just because I know them. They tend to think that I will be perfect, but sometimes I'm not. That adds pressure because obviously I want to make sure that they are in the loop. They trusted me before I started this job. I hope they still trust me as I'm doing this job. And I think we've done a pretty good job of continuing that on. But yes, there's definitely added pressure because I know Mom and Dad are going to be proud of me no matter what. My neighbors may think, man, this guy kind of stinks at his job if I don't do it good enough. So there are some added pressures because I see those people more often than anybody else, but also just because I want to represent where I'm from. I want to kind of be a symbol of, Effingham County, that kind of thing. I want to show everybody in Central Illinois kind of, what Effingham County people are about, and that's hard work. That's making sure you do a good job and just making sure that you are a reliable person, because at the end of the day, that's what I think Effingham County, Diedrich's all about, just being reliable and just kind of being a good friend. But yes, that in sense does add some pressure, but it's a good kind of pressure because it makes you do your job a little better.
I think that the one thing that makes us really unique is in television, the way the business works now is a lot of times you have people jumping around and going different places. And so, for us, and I think of a lot of my friends from college and whatnot, my classmates that were going different places, they're bouncing around different markets and kind of going all over and things like that. But the four of us, all of us have either been born and raised in Central Illinois or have had a lot of childhood experiences in Central Illinois. Mm-hmm. Kevin and I and Seth from here. Adam, his family's from here. He's been here. He knew the area.
More time, I think, in Central Illinois growing up than like Chicagoland,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
way closer.
So we all know the area, and we all have different connections, and we're all kind of spread out too. Seth knows Effingham like the back of his hand. I've got Champaign-Urbana, Gibson City, all that area, and I know this area really well. Adam's got family from around here. The one thing about Kevin that maybe is a little more unique is he claims to be from here, but he's technically across the border in Indiana.
Hey, I openly admit I'm a Hoosier, so
yeah. Adam is definitely
not the basketball, not the team, but I mean I'm from the state, so anyone that's from Indiana.
Kevin likes the Hoosiers. Are you more?
I'm an Illini fan.
You're not an Illini fan. That's right.
I'm just fighting words.
Whatever. Yeah. Anyways, but no, it's cool because like Kevin grew up watching. He's gonna probably tell you this. Kevin grew up watching Judy Frazier. I was a kid caster, grew up watching Robert Reese, Judy Frazier as well. Seth, a little young for probably those days, but he grew up watching Robert Reese and Judy, and Derek even over the
Maybe
years.
Derek,
Yeah, you know, you probably being here.
I worked one day with Derek, and I remember that because he came in for something in the morning, and that was the one time I got to work with him really. But Jack is who I really got to work with the most.
And the three of us, besides Kevin, we were all interns here as well, which is kind of cool. This station really values bringing people home and bringing people back to where they grew up from. And so a lot of our on-air staff here has some sort of connections. Our sports director is from McLean County. Jennifer Roscoe went to U of I, has made this her home. The three of us, Seth and myself and Kevin, we all have wives and married, and we're from here, and our wives' families are from here. Adam, his grandparents, he's still got uncles and aunts and cousins that are still here, and you don't get that at every TV station. A lot of times you get people who kind of move in and move on, but here there's that really cool aspect that is very rare in this business, especially the way things are set up.
And we each even bring something different to the table too. I think Kevin's got a lot of experience because he was a chief. I think he was still a chief when he was in Springfield.
Chief in Missouri,
in Missouri, in Springfield, which was next door to the market I wasn't first in. But he was there as a chief, and he's from Indiana, so he's got obviously, as we mentioned, the kind of local ties. But he also spent some time outside the viewing area, in an area that gets a lot of tornadoes and a lot of severe weather too. I mean, Southwest Missouri does get a lot of activity too. For me, I think what makes me different is I'm not the outsider because I do have those local backgrounds, but I kind of am. So I got that Chicago, I got the Chicagoland kind of background too when it comes to some of the weather aspects. He's got the South as well. The kind of the southern portion because you were both in Oklahoma and you were in
Mississippi for about 4.5 years.
Yeah, so you got some really good severe weather background too as well, but you're in a different location than Kevin and I. And then we've got Seth, who's the young buck, but I mean Seth, he's got a lot of that young, fresh college knowledge that he's kind of using.
Yeah, we can talk about it because he's not here yet. You'll hear from him later.
I think that was a compliment. I don't know.
Yeah, totally compliment.
But each one brings something different to the table to kind of make it so as a team we're each different. I think we're all personality-wise very different too, or somewhat different.
Yeah, we that aspect of we all bring different things too. That's the great thing is that we can all bring up ideas. And how many times we're talking about what about this front here? What about the experience with you've had with fronts coming in this way or storm motion or things like that.
Because you have the ag background, he's got
true.
He's got the small town Dietrich, Effingham area kind of background. Kevin, I'm trying to think what his background besides weather is. I can't think off the top of my head. I thought I had a good coherent, but we got little aspects that we kind of bring into another view of for our forecast.
And I think the other thing that we do as well that makes us unique is while the forecast matters, the impacts.
Yes.
How does it impact people? We're always very focused on that. This is going to affect your drive to work. The snow is going to stick to the roads and freeze, and it's going to be black ice. Good luck. Or this is a severe weather event that's going to be very high, have a very high impact for a very few number of people. It's going to be very dangerous, but there's only a couple of storms. The impact and how it affects people there, I think, also makes us unique because we focus on that. We've always talked about impact-based forecasting, and so while there's the science of the numbers and the cloud cover and all that jazz,
I think what makes the four of us unique, and I'm pretty sure Kevin's going to say the same thing, is in this TV industry, people come and go, sometimes as little as a year. We have people that stay longer than others. Obviously, someone like Kevin, someone like Roscoe has been here for quite some time. But it's very rare when you have four people who are within, three of us grew up in the area. A fourth one grew up a state over and isn't really that far. When you have four people that are in the area at multiple different stages in the career too. Kevin's the chief. He's, been there, done that. He's got a lot of experience. When it comes to that point, you can pretty much go to any market you want within reason. Obviously, there's a lot of different things that go into that. But, I'm a beginner, and here I am in the place that I grew up to. The chances of that are astronomically low. I've only been in the business for 2 years, but even I know how lucky I am to be here where I am. Jacob knows the same thing. He left a job as a chief somewhere to be here, and that just kind of is what I think makes us unique. We know our own corners of the area. Kevin grew up on the western half of Indiana, so he knows that. Jacob on the north side of the area, I'm on the side. We have every single corner, every single road we probably have memorized when you collectively put the four of us together. But I think that's what makes us unique, and the fact that people can relate to that, and you can tell based on the way we present the weather sometimes. We know exactly what we're talking about, where we're talking about, and it would probably be hard-pressed to find any station in the country that has four people that grew up in the area. I would be willing to guess that isn't a thing.
Oh, I 1,000,000% agree. That does not happen. It doesn't happen. A lot of people, especially in a middle market, like a lot of people or the transplants. So they come from other parts and they're in and out. Yeah, it's a most unique thing that I've been able to be a part of it, and I've worked at 5, 6 TV stations in my 22 years. So yeah, I've never had that at any station except here. So yeah, that's unique, and you bring a skill set to the table that the viewers and people at home absolutely can relate to, because you're gonna know the areas, the roads, the landmarks, the stores, the places that they go, and so you can tell a better weather story or tell a better severe weather, story by referencing those things. And listen, we should not be mispronouncing too many town names, because we know them all. And I know there's a lot of reporters or other people that maybe still mispronounce some names, and that just happens. And you can tell with us, largely, unless it's just something we never heard of before or something crazy. I mean, we know Chicken Bristle.
Yeah,
that's a town, by the way.
It is. It really is a place.
It's a small.